I'm Meg McKinlay and I'm the author of Catch a Falling Star, which has been shortlisted in the Younger Readers category, and I am going to read to you a little bit, just a little section from the book, and talk a bit about this because there's something interesting about this to me. Authors, we don't always know what we're doing. We don't often know what we're doing. Something has snuck into this book without me quite realising. So I'll just read you a little bit and then I'll talk about what I mean. So this is a little section where the main character, 12-year-old Frankie, she's looking at some family photos and she's remembering the day that they sat down to take all of these photos. And it's set in 1979. So, you know, you had to set the camera up, you had to set the timer, and then you had to try and get back into the frame. And anyway, this is what she says. I trace my fingers over the photos, pick one up and hold it to the light. Another. Then this one, where Dad's roaring with laughter because he almost fell over trying to make it back before the timer went off, and Newt's wriggling out of Mum's arms and she's lunging forwards trying to grab him, and I'll leave it there because she gets interrupted. But the point is that this is, when you set out to take family photos, that's not what you're looking for, okay? You're looking for the posed, fabulous shot. But here's another little bit from later on in the book where Frankie is remembering something. She says, Dad took much better photos that day, but he put this one up on the mantelpiece right next to them. He said, life was full of mess and mistakes, and there was no point trying to hide it. Now, I love that idea. And that's why I'm not going to reshoot this video no matter what happens. Life is full of mess and mistakes and there's no point trying to hide it. Now, when I wrote those lines and that idea, which becomes quite important in the book for a bunch of reasons, I thought it was just emerging sort of organically from the characters, from the story, from the ideas that I was coming up with. This book came out in March last year, 2019, and a couple of months later, I found myself in the position of returning to my childhood home and sort of having to go through some things. And lo and behold, on the wall in our house, now I always knew this, but somehow I'd forgotten it, and I certainly hadn't made the connection with what I'd written here. There is a family photo, and I remember this day that we took all the photos, or what Dad did was actually he got a professional photographer. It was a pretty unusual thing to do in those times. He got a professional photographer out to the house, took a series of photos of all of us in our finest gear. Well, we were mostly in our finest gear, standing in front of, the garden. And there's some really good photos in there, I think. And in fact, this is a pretty good photo, except for one thing. Firstly, my little sister, there was a tracksuit that Mum had made her that she wore every single day. So she's wearing the tracksuit, which is probably not what you would necessarily want your child to be wearing in a family photo. But she's clutching her big teddy bear. We're all looking fabulous and smiling. And she's there in front of all of us with her tongue sticking out, making that kind of face. That is the photo that my father put up on the wall. That's the photo that I grew up with. So I didn't consciously remember that. I didn't consciously know that it was going into the book, but of course that's where it comes from. It must. So I love that parts of our lives and parts of the things that we care about sneak in without us knowing. I'm sure there's many, many more instances of things like that in this book. That's part of the mystery of it for me. I'll be realising things that have snuck in for years to come. My brothers and sister will point them out, I'm sure. That's one of the lovely things about writing. And just a little tidbit to share with you from Catch a Falling Star.